Daredevil Born Again may represent the least amount of consistency we have ever seen. A show that by all accounts should have been a sure thing has been anything but, containing so many avoidable issues it almost feels like self-sabotage. This could have been a project to rope the audience back in and remind people what used to be so great about the MCU. But it has done nothing but reinforce the narrative that Disney has no idea what the fans want. Originally, I wasn't planning on doing a third video, as seemingly no one gives a shit about this show in the slightest. But for closure purposes and the sheer fact that everything went off the rails in the final 3 episodes, my mind was changed. So let's see exactly how far off the mark this show really ended up.
We are so fucked.
The episode opens up with Cuckpin discussing the Muse case with Buck and sycophant Daniel. He is informed that Daredevil busted up the most recent incident with Angela and doesn't take the information well.
He's back.
In the shower, Sloppy Seconds Heather joins Matt for sexy time, but notices some bruising. Before she can question him, Matt plugs her pie hole with his tongue and likely something else shortly thereafter. But unfortunately for him, his dare-dicking only delays the inevitable as she begins to question him on his recent activities.
You were gone when I got here. You left your briefcase here and you didn't get those bruises at work.
He has possibly the single worst response in the history of relationships.
Sometimes this all feels fake.
This honestly makes me question exactly how he ever says the correct things during cross-examination.
What a joke.
Back at the law firm, Matt meets with Cherry, who isn't exactly happy about Matt returning to the vigilante world.
If you want to blow up your life again, you go ahead.
In the mayor's office, Cuckpin is obsessing over Daredevil. Buck reminds him that he should not use current resources to settle old grudges, but Fisk seems uninterested in this line of thought. Across town, Matt visits Angela, who strangely can't recognize his voice as Daredevil despite hearing it in flashbacks earlier.
I'm here.
Matt questions her about what happened, and at the same time, Angie Kim, who apparently is no longer on negotiation detail, uncovers the bizarre artwork in Muse's hideout.
Like murals of people.
Faces.
Vanessa meets with Lucca, who tells her he's going to make a power play on the families, which seems utterly retarded.
Your language is offensive. Fuck you!
From a purely strategic standpoint, why would you tell the wife of the person you intend to usurp that you plan to do it? I mean, I get that they're going through some issues, but there's no more direct pipeline of information in the world.
Are you asking for my permission?
In Sloppy Seconds' therapy office, she meets with Bastion Cooper, a character we actually met way back in episode 2 at that book signing scene. It seemed like such an insignificant detail that I didn't even bother to mention it, but apparently that was a mistake in hindsight. Bastion is the current #1 suspect in the Muse trial because of a rare canvas he purchased or some shit. Also, it turns out he's actually a bit of a sociopath.
Involuntary commitment when he was 15. Expelled from Phillips Exeter.
In addition to all of that, he was also forced to compete in Taekwondo competitions and train under a world champion that he ended up killing because he wanted to be an artist. Look, as a martial artist who also does YouTube on the side, I just want to say it is possible to have 2 hobbies, dude. Heather quickly figures out who Bastion is based on his curious usage of his own blood. She is then taken hostage.
Ryan, I know what you're thinking. Can I make it to the door in time?
Meanwhile, in Muse's hideout, Daredevil figures out that his next target is Heather by feeling the paintings? Which makes no fucking sense. These are literally 2-dimensional flat portraits painted with blood, not exactly the best medium for transfer. There is absolutely zero chance that these paintings share perfect photorealistic 3D textures and contours that resemble a real human face. But that doesn't matter. He figures out who it is just in time to nail our old friend Powell, who just seems to be everywhere, in the head. Using the painting, the police identify Heather as the target.
Facial recognition ID the sketch is Heather Glenn, a psychiatrist.
Wait a minute! You're telling me that a computer could decipher who this is supposed to be? Seriously? Okay, I didn't go too hard on Daredevil using bullshit tactile nonsense to figure out who this was because he has superpowers. But facial recognition technology barely works when you have a clear image, which this, to say the least, is not. Go attempt to open your iPhone while you're plastered. It won't even figure out who your drunk ass is. I'm not kidding, I'll wait. YouTube is always complaining to me that there's no natural breakpoints for ads anyway, so fuck it, go at it. Did it work? Likely not. But yet we're meant to believe that this technology can be used to search out a person from a bad painting. Anyway, Muse intends to use Heather's blood to make his masterpiece. He slices open her arm in spite of her ill-advised taunting.
Anybody who needs a mask is a coward.
Just as he begins to get started, the anti-vigilante task force arrives, as does Daredevil. The two engage in another fight, though this time a little less one-sided. Just before the task force can breach the perimeter and catch the fight in action, Heather takes it upon herself to end the only interesting storyline so far in this season.
That was a bit anticlimactic.
Fisk visits the crime scene because, that's exactly what mayors do, contaminate active investigations. After being briefed that Daredevil was there, he decides to use this as an opportunity to steer the narrative.
What we do know is that you and your men did your job. That you stopped Muse. Isn't that right, Sergeant North?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
Following suit, Sycophant also decides to use BB as a pawn as well.
You burned me with that mayor garbage thing.
Look, you were high, you were slipping.
Shut up. This is a carrot and a stick situation. And what you decide in the next few seconds will determine how totally awesome but totally shitty the rest of your life is.
Get the fuck out of here.
In the hospital, Matt visits Heather, who is shaken up but able to go home. She tries to make sense out of the fact that Daredevil knew her name, as Fisk appears on the television to take credit for Muse's death.
I promised to keep our streets safe, and I delivered.
Sometime later that night, Lucca receives a text from Vanessa with Fisk's current whereabouts, seemingly to go and kill him, but it turns out to be a setup.
Thank you, Buck. Could you call Vanessa and ask her? She'd like me to bring her home some sold one there.
I'm not really sure why this guy was retarded enough to think that this was going to work, but then again, he's being written by the same word assemblers who thought it was a good idea to kill off Muse after less than 2 episodes. Are you a hopeless romantic still hung up on an ex despite them completely moving on? Maybe somebody has you on the hook and you're hoping they'll finally let you out of the friend zone.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Well, rather than rely on the slim chance that you'll be called up to the plate, why not go for a sure thing? From the company that brought you late bloomers comes ReBound, the first dating service designed to pair you with someone that vaguely resembles the person you can't get over just enough to allow you to pretend it all worked out.
Huh?
Just send us a picture that you ripped off of social media and a maximum distance that you're willing to travel, and we'll find you a just barely good enough mate. So stop dealing with the heartache and that pesky restraining order by joining ReBound and let us find you your silver medal today. We begin with a beautiful shot of a blue rose inside an equally beautiful location, the prison where Bullseye is being held. He is transferred from isolation to Gen Pop, which is apparently not what he was promised.
No, I was told I'm supposed to.
Off in the Red Hook port, Kingpin is discussing funding with Vanessa when he surprises her with next-level penis owner Adam. I guess Kingpin did keep his promise after all and didn't kill him, though I have no idea how Adam survived the previous encounter without medical attention. But then again... Adam begs for his life and promises he will leave and say nothing, so Vanessa, as any star-crossed lover would, shoots him to death. I'm really shocked she didn't request that he make a dildo mold first.
That's gross. You're a pervert.
Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Matt and Heather discuss her situation from the previous episode. Again. She seems to be utterly disconnected from reality.
Saved you.
I saved me. They were both out there for themselves.
And reveals that she has a random disdain for Daredevil now.
They're just these underdeveloped boys hiding behind masks.
Is this bitch serious? Actually, scratch that. Is this show serious? You cannot tell me that this isn't some dig at the quote-unquote incels that the Disney word assemblers are constantly crusading against. It would appear that they'll never learn. There is a knock at the door, which is Buck dropping off an invitation to the inaugural black and white ball.
How did you or Mayor Fisk know she was staying here?
This leads to more fighting between the couple about the fact that she has the Fisks as clients.
Please don't tell me Fisk is a client.
I'm not gonna answer that, Matt.
He is trying to co-opt your story. He wants to use your trauma to boost his narrative.
He's got my vote.
You must see he's trying to use you.
Why don't you come with me then?
I wasn't invited.
To Dr. Heather Glenn and guest.
Matt leaves for the office where Kirsten isn't exactly happy with his tardiness and lack of professionalism.
Oh, you're good? You look like you just got out of some North Jersey fight club.
I appreciate the shout out, but us New Jersey fighters are way uglier than this. Kirsten informs Matt that Bullseye wants to meet with him, which severely confuses everyone.
Do we know who moved him?
Mayor Fisk.
Speaking of Fisk, he's in his office admiring his work.
The task force is a success.
The ACLU is filing 13 different lawsuits over their excessive methods.
Due to sycophants' efforts to turn the press on their side, he is rewarded with a non-existent public position.
As deputy mayor for communication.
Which is honestly probably the most accurate thing in this show. And finally, Fisk made sure to get the answer to the question on everybody's mind since he asked it way back when.
Vanessa checked. This is actually Fiorello LaGuardia's desk.
Matt has a spirited discussion with a client.
Black lady, blind dude, I like the optics. I'm just saying. There's no way that I would knowingly defraud them.
Bullshit.
Matt.
It is against the law for my partner and I to put a client on the stand when we know they are lying. You, my friend, are lying.
And decides to go visit Josie, where he's accompanied by Cherry. It's here that he begins to put things together and realizes Foggy was onto something much bigger.
Oh, Melvin, he's never finished his final round.
He was celebrating early.
This prompts him to visit Bullseye to ask some questions, but the conversation yields no results except Matt destroying Bullseye's face.
Started smashing his face against the table.
Later that night, the black and white ball commences with every crooked politician, dirty cop, and rich prick in New York in attendance. Despite everyone having a good time, there's an air of uneasiness at the entire event.
And where is your better half Arthur tonight?
I have to go.
Oh hey, it's the bitchy blonde from earlier. The malaise is exacerbated by the arrival of Wilson and Vanessa, who doesn't follow dress code, might I add. Back in the prison, Bullseye is being patched up when he uses one of his fucking teeth as a weapon and poses as a corrections officer to escape custody.
Stop! Motherfucker!
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's rather inventive. Matt arrives at the ball to meet up with Sloppy Seconds, but it's very clear he has ulterior motives as he eavesdrops on Fisk's conversations. Conversations that no crime boss would ever have in a public place like this. Especially one that has a nemesis with super hearing that he invited to the fucking party. But a character is only as smart as its word assembler.
Shall I call you Swordsman? The Vigilante?
Holy shit, yeah, that's the dude from Hawkeye, isn't it? How did they expect anyone to remember anything from that shit show? You see, this is what I'm talking about. There were perfectly good opportunities to set this up properly, but instead we get a random line thrown in sloppily at the end. They literally have segments of street vlogging with the citizenry. Have a couple of them name drop the swordsman, it's really that simple. Speaking of things being slapdash...
There's no pictures inside, but you knew that, right?
The task force has basically become a private army of lawbreakers, but somehow not a single federal agent or internal investigator has gotten involved. You can't tell me that no one has made a single call since this shit started. After his viewing of the Kentucky Fried Hand incident, Commissioner Gallo is cornered by BB to ask him questions about the task force, which he is willing to give up all the information he has.
Do you know that Wilson Fisk was the main suspect in your uncle's murder?
Why do you think I'm here?
I have files on every crook with a badge that Fisk calls his task force.
As the ball winds down, the Fisks begin to dance where they are eventually joined by Sloppy Seconds and Matt in an attempt to gain info.
I have something to tell you.
I know you had Foggy killed. I just don't know why.
Bullseye arrives to assassinate Fisk, and just as he's getting into position to take his shot, Matt jumps in to take the bullet for Kingpin for some fucking reason that only makes sense to him. As chaos ensues, the Fisks flee and the episode fades to red. Seriously, why the fuck did he just save him? All of the issues would be over if he just let him die. Do you have engagements that you wish you could be late for but simply don't have an excuse? Does every trip you take result in either being on time or worse yet, early? I'm waiting! All because Google Waze and Apple Maps are just too good? So why not rely on some antiquated-ass technology instead? We here at the forgotten company Garmin have partnered with Disney to bring you this. The Directionless GPS, a system specifically designed to take you on the guaranteed least efficient route possible for every single trip. Using a combination of old maps and strategically ignored warning signs, we will make sure to steer you into every traffic jam, dead end, and speed trap to slow your approach to your destination. So if you need an excuse as to why you couldn't make it to that wedding, bar mitzvah, or funeral, be sure to get a Garmin Directionless and have a permanent excuse. The episode opens up with a flashback of Vanessa visiting Bullseye in prison. The first time he was there, not the current time. She presents him with some horseshit get-out-of-jail-free card that he reluctantly signs, and apparently that's all that's needed.
You're free.
That doesn't make sense.
We cut back to the present where Matt is coming to from the shooting. He makes a bit of a faux pas by misremembering his girlfriend's name.
Karen?
You are so busted.
Which now really lends credence to the nickname Sloppy Seconds. In his dazed state, he begins asking Kirsten about the night Foggy was murdered to piece together the last little bits. All she remembers is that he was moving to file for dismissal. Matt, of course, wants his hands on the file from the case.
That he was going to be filing a motion to dismiss.
I need to see it.
Matt, is that really the correct course of words?
Can't you watch where you're...
No.
In his office, Fisk authorizes a bunch of insane shit.
There'll be no body cams, no due process, no warrants.
Condoning the use of lethal
Condoning,
force.
absolutely not. Encouraging Gallo.
And then orders Buck to go kill Matt under the guise of succumbing to his injuries. Kingpin follows that up by ordering Sheila to gather his detractors from within his staff and fire them, and requests something even more retarded that no one would ever do.
You keep using the word.
On your way out, can you send in our friend from Con Ed?
You see, Wilson wants to black out the city to cause chaos. The reason why this is dumb as fuck is because that's not how city municipal power works. Manhattan alone is served by 39 independent power grids that would need to be shut off one at a time, which is a huge ordeal that would require more than just a guy from Con Ed. There isn't some big fucking switch down at New York City Electric headquarters that this dude can just flick. As Sheila makes her way down the hall, she is approached by Commissioner Useless, who tells her that he's gonna go up to Albany to talk to the governor and state Supreme Court.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
How do none of them know what's going on in literally the epicenter of their population?
Fuck if I know.
But instead of leaving tonight, he's gonna wait till the morning because he needs his beauty rest and has absolutely no fear of repercussions despite being threatened multiple times. Buck arrives at the hospital as the city's power goes out, but seeing as how they seem to have forgotten they're dealing with someone with super hearing, he evades the assassination attempt. Matt gets home to find that he has a visitor.
You're pretty much the last person I expected to find here.
And Punisher asks the question on all of our minds.
How would you take a bullet for that, asshole?
No fucking idea.
The task force shows up. Daredevil and Punisher fight them off, and despite Matt's pleas, Frank uses lethal force. By the way, could you imagine just being a person in this apartment building trying to get some fucking sleep? After finding his logo on one of the task force bullets, Frank deduces that this is Hector Ayala's killer.
You think?
Of course, Punisher isn't happy with this guy and wants to execute him, but Matt steps in the way.
In front of a bull for this piece of shit too? Is that what you do now, hero?
But while they squabble, a grenade pin is pulled and Matt grabs Frank, and through some crazy impossible physics, they land on the other side of the street. Wait a minute! You're telling me that they somehow exited a window here and landed on this car? Seriously? Okay, let's ignore the fact that Matt just got shot in the shoulder that he's using to hold Frank. What fucking crazy geometry is even happening here? There's no situation, whether they are swinging or otherwise, they can land in this area of the street.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Anyway, after that monstrosity of moronic math, who shows up but Karen, who now all of a sudden cares? As luck would have it, when Matt was in trouble, it was her who called for Punisher to help, and seeing as how he hasn't gotten laid in years, he simped for Karen in order to save her ex-boyfriend. They all hole up in Frank's bunker to plan their next move, but Punisher isn't interested in that shit for some reason.
Inspector Gadget bullshit? It's not for me.
Daniel meets with the city council and threatens to expose their illegal activities if they aren't on board with the Safer Streets initiative.
Fisk cares deeply about the city council. Like you, Miss Speaker.
540,000 euros stashed in a Swiss bank account.
Right. That's smart money. We should, sit down and share tips sometime.
A plan that allows cops to kill anyone they see as a vigilante with impunity.
And it's insane. This makes stop and frisk look like daycare.
Matt and Karen go to the old Nelson and Murdoch file storage area where Matt finds the old Avocados at Law desk sign. Karen confirms practically every stupid blonde joke ever with her inability to understand the reference.
I never got that joke.
Avocados. Spanish for lawyers.
Well, duh.
They find Foggy's file, which show that Red Hook isn't part of the US. It's a free port that the Fisks could use as a city-state outside of US jurisdiction. They act like this is some sort of huge reveal, but this is easily accessible public info. In fact, there are nearly 300 of these free trade zones throughout the US, and believe it or not, they're policed and regulated. So this plan is completely idiotic. Speaking of idiotic plans involving Red Hook, Punisher goes there to hunt down the task force by himself with minimal armament and no plan whatsoever as he attempts to take down about 30 people. Which goes about as well as you'd expect, though he lasts longer than most would.
It's sexist to hit you? Is it more sexist to not hit you? I mean, the line gets real blurry.
Powell then tries to recruit him, but after he refuses, they beat him mercilessly. Sheila sells Gallo up the river, but unfortunately for him, it's not the Hudson, which would have actually carried him up to Albany. Instead, he's kidnapped and brought to Fisk and brutally murdered.
What the fuck?
Daredevil wants to run a suicide mission to Red Hook, but Karen is able to use her speak with your manager powers to change his mind.
I'm gonna take this city back, Karen.
Where do we start?
We need an army.
The next morning, the power is restored. Fisk hires Heather as his commissioner of mental health.
Well, stay here and rot, you stuck-up bitch.
And then makes a speech on TV where he fully enacts the Safer Streets initiative. But what exactly does that entail? Can you let us know?
All vigilante activity is illegal.
It already was.
Curfew is at 8 p.m.
This is the city that never sleeps. I mean, retail stores stay open till 9 p.m. minimum. Hell, I could get pizza at 4 a.m.
New York City is under martial law. Now,
you are aware you can't just do that, right? Also, I think something like that might draw a shit ton of attention.
I don't care!
The fact that the state and federal governments aren't involved already is insanely unrealistic. I mean, you literally had an entire citywide blackout. This is the age of digital information. Shit, people in Zimbabwe would know by now, never mind people only a few hundred miles away. The episode closes with Daredevil meeting with random people at Josie's, who I guess are supposed to represent his army. While we see all the prisoners Fisk has taken, including Swordsman, the bitchy blonde, and Punisher. And wait, that's how this shit ends?
Go home, folks.
What an utter mess this ended up being. This show has absolutely no concept of narrative flow or consistency. It's a series of false starts, sudden halts, and dead ends that do very little to build upon each other. As soon as we get a story that seems interesting, they axe it, and the ones that we couldn't give two shits about, they keep circling back to. Not to mention the episodes being completely out of order. It starts with the Foggy death footnote, and then basically abandons it for a ridiculously fast-tracked Rise of Mayor Fisk storyline. We then spend 2 whole episodes on a side quest of a trial for a character we have never met and don't care about. A chronicle which is essentially irrelevant because, like a retard after being acquitted of murder, Hector immediately goes outside and gets killed. We meandered with random characters for a few episodes before getting what seemed to be a major villain, only for him to be killed off within an episode of debuting. We then get right back to the Mayor Fisk stuff for it only to play out like a mid-season finale rather than a season-ending one. An obvious full-on cliffhanger and not an ending that makes this a self-contained narrative like the original show's first season. You don't need to be a professional writer to see the piss-poor assembly here. This is patchwork trash that is exactly what we should have expected from Disney, considering they literally stepped in and demanded rewrites and reshoots, as well as firing the original production staff. This thing didn't stand a chance from the very beginning. If I had to venture a guess, I'd say the few good parts were the ones that survived from the original, and executives couldn't fathom having anything remotely competent. So rather than expanding on those bits, they just left them in as weird non sequiturs in a sea of bullshit. This is such a far cry from the old show, it barely even feels connected, which almost seems by design. Gone are the characters we knew and loved, replaced by either cheap lookalikes who make illogical decisions, or flat out removed in favor of one-note flavor of the week newcomers that we never spend enough time with to form an opinion on either way. Not to mention the entire series leaves us scratching our heads as to how any of this lunacy is so isolated. This is one of the issues with shared universes. The power is out in New York goddamn city. Crime is insane, and no one, not Spider-Man, not Captain Falcon, not even fucking Luke Cage is helping. I mean, I get that maybe Sam Wilson is off doing some official America shit, and Peter Parker needs to contend with distribution rights problems, but Luke Cage just needs to walk down the fucking street.
I'm about sick of always having to buy new clothes.
Sure, Punisher was there, but he debuted in Daredevil, so he's just as connected to this as his own show. In the end, Daredevil Born Again is exactly what I predicted, a poor imitation of a show I once held in high enough esteem to dedicate my first video to. By the way, if you go back and watch that, I'm sorry, I really didn't know what the fuck I was doing yet. It's par for the course with everything MCU, a husk of what it once was, shambling onward despite having none of what made it great. Devoid of good writers, showrunners, visionaries. Anyone worth a shit. Replaced by hacks, has-beens, and never-weres who seem more interested in telling their own story badly instead of trying for something awesome. And if that doesn't convince you that Daredevil Born Again wasted every bit of goodwill the old show built up, I don't know what to tell you.